I'll just get this out the way. I enjoyed the movie, I thought it was great. I've probably seen it about 5 or 6 times since it came out, and I kept looking out for details that I might have missed because this film is filled with so much. Anyway, now that it's been a while since it came out, plus the sequel being announced finally, I figured I might as well just share my thoughts. So I don't really know much about Miles. I mean, I knew he existed, but I didn't delve into any of the comics or anything like that. And as far as animated series, I grew up watching the 90s Spider-Man cartoon. I didn't watch any of the Marvel Ultimate Spider-Man stuff, so I didn't know much about his backstory. I mean, as far as I was concerned, he was just a black version of Peter from a different universe. But see, that's why I really enjoyed this film, because I felt like it definitely fleshed out Miles as a character. Whereas any other film would have gone in a particular direction which might have worked, but I'm so glad we got what we got. I also think this movie balances its scenes very well. Like, you're not going to get moments that are intense and dramatic and then all of a sudden something comedic happens and then just undercuts it, which tends to happen in a lot of these Marvel films, so I'm glad this doesn't do it as much, if at all. And it also gives each character the right amount of screen time in my opinion. I should also add that each version of the heroes have their own animation style, and that's a nice touch. I really appreciate little details like that. And I think we can all agree that 2018 was a good year for Miles, especially with the fact that he appeared in the Spider-Man PS4 game and featured in his own movie as well. So if you got to play the game and saw how things ended up, then you pretty much already know what most of us were looking forward to. Okay, I'm getting too sidetracked. That's not the point of the video. But I felt like it made sense for me to link it to this solely on the fact that Miles' story plays a heavy role in the narrative, which eventually led to his own game a few years later. I think I'll probably do a video covering those games in the future. They're definitely worth talking about, but we'll see how things go. Nah, but let me just say this last thing. The fact that they put the costume from the movie into the game complete with the animation style was incredible. I mean, look at that. It's like you're watching the movie again. Exactly the same. Almost. There's also a mod in the game that adds the comic book hit sounds on screen during combat. And if you play the previous game as well, you'll notice that the swinging animation has been improved. Obviously Miles has his own style compared to Peter, but it's definitely a lot more fluid. I mean, look at that transition from game to film. That's how good it is. Alright, let me just calm down. This part's getting too long. Let's just get to the behind the scenes stuff now. So I don't think I need to give any more personal thoughts on the animation, because I'll just be repeating myself at this point. I think I'd rather use this part of the video to dive deeper into all the work that was needed to make this thing happen. I will say this quickly though, I am starting to see a lot of movies and games taking some sort of inspiration from this whole style, and I'm all for it, but I do feel like it's going to get a bit too much. I guess we'll just have to wait and see how things play out. Alright, now that we got that out of the way, let's just talk about the actual part of the video. Let's get into the ins and outs of everything. Okay, so while doing some research, I came across this video right here. According to visual advisor Danny Dimian, one of their main goals was to try and bring more of the art back in terms of line drawing and hand animation, and not rely on only using computers, which is very evident in the end results. These guys had to make sure that the characters can be very expressive in a similar fashion to the comics. According to productive designer Justin K. Thompson, a team of animators had to find ways to create dimensional lines on each character's face, which is pretty much a tool that helps with all the character expressions and things like that. Basically, all this had to be done from the ground up and then mapped onto each character's face, which I can only imagine the amount of hours they put into making all this come to life, practically inventing a whole system in the process. I think it's definitely worth a watch, so I'll link the video in the description if you're interested in knowing more, so definitely look out for that. Another cool fact I found a few years back was that Miles' animation during this scene was actually a lot choppier on purpose, being animated at 12 frames per second while learning to swing. But then as he gets better at swinging, it's increased to 24 frames per second like the other heroes. Like most people, I definitely didn't catch that the first time seeing it. Shit's crazy. There's a video by Insider that goes more in depth about it while comparing it to older animations. I'll link it in the description as well. Okay, so this man right here is artist and animator Alberto Mielgo, and his work helped lay the foundations on how the movie ended up looking. He's pretty much who Sony Animations hired as a production designer and was contracted to make a short animation test clip, which is what you're seeing on your screen right now. This guy spent several weeks painting, drawing, storyboarding, and Sony responded with great feedback from what they saw. In his words, he wanted to create the most amazing thing ever. He was then allowed to hire a team of artists and longtime collaborators of his choosing, which he then took trips with to New York to mostly exclusive locations, including various tall buildings, to take pictures that would properly help capture the feeling of being Spider-Man. And obviously, he was excited with how things were going, especially with the fact that Sony was giving him great feedback plus providing him with top quality resources. But then he got fired. Yeah, what the fuck? Well, basically there were quite a few creative differences. Sony wanted to go in a completely different direction than he did, and I can see why. If you're familiar with the Netflix anthology series titled Love, Death and Robots, then I'm sure you recognize his signature style, as he directed 2 episodes specifically titled The Witness and Jabaro. He also did a trailer for Ubisoft's Watch Dogs Legion. His style, although a very artistic and technical marvel, does tend to be quite dark, and even though he never actually stated the reason why Sony fired him, my guess is that's probably one of the main reasons, especially judging by the final product. It's all good though, because even with everything that happened, you can clearly see that the DNA of his original vision is still present in the theatrical release. The team that ended up taking over were obviously very much inspired by what he had done prior to him leaving. I mean, even Miles' logo was a design that he made based on the Anarchy symbol. All I can say is that I'm glad that they kept a lot of the ideas that he and his team worked on. It is a shame he didn't get as much credit as he should have, to be honest, but unfortunately that's just how it goes sometimes. I'll link this website in the description if you want to check out more of his artwork or read up on his experience for yourself. It's very much an interesting read, so check it out. Man, what more can I say other than this film is definitely something special. From the voice actors that were able to perfectly capture each character's personality to the animators and artists that made it all come to life on the big screen. I remember seeing the thumbnail for the trailer during my lunch break and then quickly checking it out, and after about 30 seconds in, I was on board. Even the song they used, which I personally prefer to Sunflower, was just perfect. As I said earlier, the original Spider-Man show was what I grew up watching as a kid, obviously along with the Tobey Maguire films, and I would always see other kids with Spider-Man hats and shirts and whatever, but that was with the original version. And even though it's still mad seeing kids nowadays enjoying the characters just like I did, Miles' popularity over the years has been something I'm enjoying so far. Is he more popular than Peter? I honestly don't think so, but it might get to the point where they're both on the same level, judging by the amount of times I've been seeing his logo and merchandise and stuff like that, but that's just my opinion. Honestly though, I can't wait to see where they take the story in the next 2 movies, but regardless of which version of Miles is being portrayed on screen or in the comics, I'm always looking forward to seeing how the character gets developed in the future, and this future is definitely starting to look like a bright one. I just want to say thank you so much for checking out the video if you managed to make it this far. It's the first time doing one of these essay types of videos and it was a very interesting process. Please feel free to leave any comments you might have about the movie or this video. Any sort of feedback is also very welcome and appreciated, as I can use it to improve on future videos. Anyway, thanks again and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.